What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another FN story. We have an organization owner and founder. Rad, what's going on, man?
Going on, Taylor? How are you?
Doing well, doing well. Thanks for joining me. You guys at Agent kind of jumped onto the scene fairly recently here in NA and made a big splash with some of the signings. So I'm interested to hear what you have to say, what all is the plan, and where you're going to next. So why don't we start off by like who you are to kind of give everybody an idea of like who's behind the organization?
Yeah. So, once again, thank you as well. So, I'm Conrad Thompson, founder and CEO of Agent, and I'm 20 years old. I founded Agent back in like late 2019. It was just like a friend group with my friends. We were all just like, kind of playing Fortnite like basically every single day. And I also played basketball at the time. Basketball was like my main sport. Easily could have went to college for it, but I was kind of like an entrepreneur on the inside, and I would kind of think differently. And I never really thought I would have made it to the NBA or anything like that. And I'm not too fond of college. I'm currently a full-time college student, but I personally didn't want to work a 9 to 5 or something like that. So that's kind of why I started a business on the side while I was playing basketball. And it was closer to around, like I said, 2019, 2020. It was when it was founded, and that's kind of when COVID happened. So playing basketball, high school and AAU, that kind of like took a big hit and a big pause. So I was just at home, and my business was kind of doing well on social media. Agent on Instagram was kind of killing it. Our social media posts, our analytics, they were doing really, really well. So that's when I kind of asked my father to make my business a subsidiary under his own business so that I can legally contract players. So, we kind of signed some Oceania pros because I was very, very young. I wasn't even 18 at the time, and I didn't have a job or anything like that. So, I had two other guys who were kind of helping me, pay player salaries at that time. And like, I that's just kind of how we had to pay salaries. And the American dollar versus like, the Australian dollar, it's worth a lot more. So we were just able to kind of get a lot of popular Oceania pros and some pretty big names in Australia or whatever. So that's kind of how we were able to kind of grow our brand at that point. So yeah, I mean, any questions for me so I can continue?
Yeah. So like who were the first guys that you picked up and like why did you choose who you chose?
Yeah, so I mean, there weren't too many free agents at the time as well because there were a lot of orgs that were in the space at this time. But we signed. I think Will was our first signing. They were just placing really, really high. And there was like things like Frosty Frenzy and whatnot around that time, like cash cups and all that stuff. And these guys, they were kind of like on the top of the leaderboards consistently. So we signed Will. We signed Rel. Rel was a very, very, very big name in Oceania. He was Mr. Fresh Asians duo, and he was a free
Yeah.
agent, and I loved his content creation. So we signed him, and then we signed Tyrax as well. And then we also merged with an Oceanic esports org. They were called Primitive. So whenever we merged with them, they brought their players over, and one of them was Sarif. Sarif, he also joined Team Power at one point after and I'll get to this later, but after Agent released him, and then we had Eschers, and then we had a kid named Raptor as well. So
Okay.
those were the players that we signed, and they were just killing it. They were on top of the leaderboards, and we were basically, if we weren't above Power in terms of like PR or whatever, we were definitely right behind them. So we were kind of like neck at neck with them. So yeah.
Gotcha. So I I have I'm wondering why you started in OCE. Was it purely just because the value of your money went further? Because you don't sound like you're Australian or from New Zealand or anything. Yeah, so why OCE is like the jumping off point for you?
Yeah, so a little bit before that, when it was like a friend group with me and my friends, I had some friends who were really, really great NA players, and some of their friends, they were also a part of the team. They were kind of representing it as us as a free agent, and like in the industry at that point, players were getting paid a lot of money from like in NA and whatnot, and it was just in Europe, and it was just very, very hard to compete. So we just realistically we wouldn't have added that much value if we were spending what we were in Oceania and NA because we would have been just basically signing players that were just making like heats or whatever that may have not been qualifying for grants. It was very, very tough. So I was able to pretty much I just did some math and I was like, this makes the most sense. These players have large followings. And we signed these Oceania players because they're placing very, very high, they have large followings, and this can help grow the brand for the amount of money that we're spending. They might not be, players that are in North America or, NA West or on, Europe. But I think the value that they added was, very, very well. So that's why I, signed Oceania players first, because I think that they were the ones that would have definitely took our brand to another level, and it for sure did. I learned a lot from doing that. So yeah.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. You get a little more bang for your buck when you go to those smaller regions. And at the time, I mean, 2018, 2019, there was still
Yeah.
like the massive content create. There still is the massive
Yeah.
content creators over
But there was
in
a lot more.
Australia. Yeah, but it had the viewership of the
Yeah.
larger regions, just not necessarily the player base. So for you, you're kind of getting the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
Besides, I don't know if you guys did percentage contracts or anything like that,
A
but
little bit. Yeah.
yeah,
So we
so
were making something.
not as good as it would have been, but nonetheless, you still got to get a name for yourself. And being an organization owner is freaking hard. I can imagine that there's a lot of money spent. You're essentially just shoving money into a furnace and continuing to burn it over and over again until you kind of create a stable brand that you can then pitch to sponsors or sell merch or anything like that. Like how, well, one, why? Like why start an organization? You said you didn't want to be in a 9 to 5 position, but at the same time, there's also other ways where you could go ahead and earn some money.
Yeah. Another business. Yeah.
Yeah, like why did you decide to start the organization in the first place?
Well, growing up, I was a pretty big fan of FaZe. I loved watching people like Rain, Adapt, Blaziken, Apex, all of those guys, And when I was in middle school, I would just constantly watch them. And I loved their content. So, I always wanted to kind of create my own esports org because of those guys. So, that kind of stuck with me, it's just like a childhood memory or whatever. So, whenever Fortnite came out, it was just very like legendary. That game is just like it just hit me hard. And that's when I was just like, this is it, I'm going to create my own clan or whatever you wanted to call it. So that's why I started it. So what really made me pursue it and honestly put the ball down when I really could have went to college for this with no doubt was the social media following. The engagement on social media was very, very high. And and we weren't really spending much money, or if anything, no money, because we had no money to spend, but yet we were still doing well on social media. I kind of just I saw the potential. I was studying a lot of other teams, teams that I would for sure study and I love to watch was a team like Extra Gaming. I'd also talk to the owners quite often and, get a lot of insight from them. But, I did know that a lot of organizations were spending lots of money and lots of teams were also ending. So it's kind of, it definitely sucks. So you needed to kind of like, figure out ways to like kind of pivot and whatnot to adapt and try to make money because, investors, when they see that they're not making return, or any return, then they kind of want to pull out and put their money elsewhere, especially if you're not a big team like, a FaZe or 100 Thieves or a Team Liquid, to where you just easily have the connections to kind of find like-minded investors. So it's very, very hard if you're kind of like a startup team, especially just a young kid, with no college degree or any type of connections at all. So it's very, very difficult. But definitely seeing the social media traction that we were getting is what made me really pursue it and want to continue with this because I just had like that drive and the passion and the hunger, I guess. I really wanted to own like a top esports org. So yeah, shout out to the fans, I guess, for
Yeah, that's
that.
cool. That's cool. A lot of people I feel like have similar stories. You get to see all the successes and failures and fun that different organizations and rosters have, and now you've kind of put yourself in a position where you get to actually do that. Not everyone
Yeah,
does. A lot of people say they want to do it and never make it happen. So congratulations, first of all, for doing
thank you.
that. That's no small feat to kind of get the roster that you've put together at this point. And so walk me through. We go OCE, and I'm gonna be
Yeah,
honest, like I didn't know much. I do remember Agent at the time, but
yeah,
it seems like there was a quiet period for you guys. Like what
yeah.
all happened where you went OCE kind of seemingly shut down or stopped doing whatever you were doing, and then jumping back into now NA Fortnite, which is one of the premier regions.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you asked this question. It's one of the stories I tell a lot of people. So pretty much, we were killing it in Oceania. Like Power is different because they have a very famous owner, Lachlan. But for an organization that, didn't have the huge names and the huge funding like they did, we honestly set ourselves apart from any other organization in that region. And it's not, not to toot my own horn, because like a lot of other NA orgs were basically doing what we were doing but better, but we just didn't have the funding, and we were still doing really really well on social media. So it kind of hit me. I was just like, kind of can't sit around and wait for sponsorships or investors to come. I needed to go out on my own and find it, because I honestly, just to say, I kind of know what I'm doing, and like I said, I saw lots of teams end, so it helped me realize I shouldn't do that, because it's going to allow us to basically do the same thing. We're going to end up ceasing to exist. So pretty much what happened was, once all of my players' contracts ended, I I realistically just didn't re-sign them. Like I said, Sarf ended up joining Power. Some of these players ended up joining some pretty good organizations. But in that year to a year and a half, quiet or time frame or whatever you wanted to call it, I really just was on grind mode every single day to raise funding, since like the October of like 2022 all the way up until June of 2023. And I got funding a few months before June. It just took me some time to kind of like relaunch, but pretty much every single day I was emailing lots of companies to sponsor the org. I was emailing lots of NFL, NBA, NHL, MLB players, all of their agents, and I was DMing them on Instagram as well. So what I would do is, I kind of created a business deck, and I would, have meetings with these NFL players or NBA players, all of their agents, every single week. And pretty much, I was pitching them this deck saying, hey, here's what we can do for the athlete, and here's the business model, so on and so forth. Here's how we add value to them long term, so on and so on forth. And it took me a very, 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 a very long time. I almost, kind of wanted to give up, but I didn't let that feeling, get to me, and I just kept going. So I ended up getting a very, very famous NFL player to invest into my business. I would say around the beginning of 2023. I think it was like March or April, around the
Okay.
beginning of first or second quarter of the year. And yeah, that's whenever we relaunched in June. So.
Any chance you share who that is?
Well, I mean, I can't share it yet. I mean, if you guys ever watched, the announcement videos, which I'm sure you guys did, I'm sure you guys have seen Sentin's announcement. At the end of his video, we talked about going to New York, and yeah, that's why we're gonna go to New York. We've got some major media companies like ESPN, Sports Illustrated, CBS Sports, Esports GG, Esports Insider. Lots of these media companies are gonna push our press release and interview the NFL star and myself. And it's pretty much similar to Dignitas and Boston Scott, but yeah, I mean, this athlete is a little bit larger than him, but
Ooh.
it should be very very exciting. Very exciting.
Okay, I know it's not Tyreek Hill because he already has his own. So,
Yeah, sorry, my
um,
boy scoped.
interesting. That's cool though. I'm glad to hear one that like you pushed through all that, had a plan to reach out to people, and then it worked. Like
Yeah,
you could have at any
took a
point
long
just
time.
stopped doing it, which most people
Lots of
probably would have.
lots of no's. Like just one thing as well to kind of add. I can kind of say this, but I was supposed to have Eli Apple. He's a cornerback, and I think he's on the Tyreek Hill team now. He was supposed, and this was around the first year for Gamers 8, not the one that just happened. I was supposed to have Eli Apple invest $75,000 into the business. We were supposed to relaunch, a lot earlier than where we did,
Right.
but that kind of fell through last minute. And when things like that happen, it's very devastating. I was supposed to also have Darnell Mooney, who's a wide receiver for the Chicago Bears. He was supposed to invest alongside, a few other people, like I can name them, but like Perry Nickerson. I think he's on the Dolphins as well. He was on the Vikings at that time. And then you have, what's his name, Dontrell Hilliard. He's one of the running back for the Titans. So I had a few other guys as well who were supposed to invest, who are Darnell Mooney's friends. They were all supposed to invest together, but that fell through. And yeah, it was very very devastating. It took me maybe almost around another year to get another athlete to invest. So yeah, lots of it's frustrating, but
Trust me, I worked in sales for 5 years, so most of the time you hear no, and then every once in a while you get a yes, and then that's the best day, and then you go weeks
yeah,
again until somebody says yes to you. So I get it, and it's a really good thing. I think what I found from it is now I'm not afraid just to do stuff, and
yeah,
sometimes it's gonna fail, sometimes you're gonna be told no, but at least you're doing, and doing just anything is better than somebody talking about doing stuff.
yeah,
And it's important to kind of have that drive and force behind an organization. So awesome to hear you do it. And it sounds like whenever this press release comes out, we will get to see who
Ooh.
is behind the organization. Do you have a time frame for that?
So I'm going to try to do it after Copenhagen. I'm finishing
Okay.
our roster, and that's why I didn't want to rush it. I'm getting like a pretty very big brand deal coming very soon, like very soon. So I didn't want to rush it, kind of pitching that to sponsors, basically saying, hey, we have this interview that's happening. He's going to be wearing our apparel, our jersey. Put your logo on the jersey, things like that. That's why I'm not rushing it, So once we also announce a few more people relatively soon and have a better roster, then we'll announce him. So yeah.
Okay, cool, cool. Now, as far as like, I would love to get to know the decision making behind who you choose to pick up, who you choose to have on the team, and like why certain players, not others. Because currently in North America, there's like three organizations, or at least
Yeah.
like three top
Decent ones.
organizations.
Yeah.
Yes. There's you guys, there's Elite, and there's Dig. And
Yeah.
like those are the three kind of players signing top players. And you have others kind of just like randomly, seemingly
Yeah.
picking up players and then disappearing. But why one? Who'd you start with in NA?
Facts.
Okay,
Facts.
Fatch. So one, why him? Right? He's not necessarily the biggest content creator, but
Yeah.
he's one of the better consistent players in the region.
Yeah.
Would just love to know like your decision making behind that.
Yeah, for sure. It's a great question. So it was very, very tough. I was supposed to the first. So here's how it went. I have a friend, 50. You also did a podcast with him. So he was kind of helping me with my first signing, getting me in touch with players because I would DM players. No one would respond to the DM because a lot of orgs promise and say these good things, so they kind of frown away from that because it's just happened a plethora amount of times. So pretty much, I was supposed to go do something with Rocane that fell through, and then there was Day I tried talking to Edgy. There was lots of players that I would reach out to, and it all fell through. So pretty much, I reached out to Pam Stu to sign Pam Stu, and I needed to sign someone in time for DreamHack, and it was kind of like running late on time. But I also wasn't just going to sign anyone. I needed someone who places really high, who I believe that if they had a content team around them and they were doing content, then they can kind of blow up, if that makes sense. But I reached out to Pam Stu, and somebody responded, and then they told me to reach out. It was like Fatch's brother Felix or whatever.
Okay.
So then Pam Stu wasn't home or something like that, and it just wouldn't have worked. So I was like, okay, I'll just sign Fatch. I believe the potential was there with Fatch or whatever. So I ended up talking to Felix, his brother, and that's just kind of why I ended up signing Fatch. I believe he's a very consistent player. Obviously, since World Cup, he got like 10th. But the content is something that I've still been trying to do with him. It's very, very challenging. Like with
Yeah.
players when they don't want to like send footage and stuff like that over. So it's very, very hard. But that's kind of why I signed Fatch. I just needed one person though to sign. I like, as you see who I have now, like Scented and Cold. Those are the guys that I wanted to sign. I've been reaching out to, like, before I signed Cold, I was trying to sign Cold for like maybe a year and a half in advance while he was on 33, because I knew 33 was going to end. While I was raising funding, I was trying to build a relationship there so that I can, once they ended, I could get Cold immediately. But them and their managers, they don't really respond. So I just needed one player, and I needed to do a great announcement video with them and show the community that this team is legit, and we're going to add value. So that's kind of why Fatch was that one person. It didn't really matter who it was, just needed that one so that I could go get the Senseds and the Colds, and hopefully that's not any disrespect to Fatch either, but yeah, so hopefully I answered that correctly as well, or in a
Yeah,
good way.
you definitely did. And I mean, I know both Fatch, Pam Stu, and his brother Felix.
Yeah.
I actually reached out to Felix. I was like, oh, what is this? It seems interesting because he's a no nonsense guy, and like from talking to
Yeah.
him, they've gotten a lot of nonsense offers. So from that point, I was like, okay, like you guys, Agent is a legitimate operation, because I don't see Felix putting his brother in some like BS that we've seen in the past. So I don't know. It sounds like that wasn't intentional, but for me,
No, yeah,
the
yeah.
Fatch signing was like very much like, okay, these people know what they're doing, and hopefully they continue to do well. So that's cool. I like the initial introduction of Fatch, and now you go after all these players. Baka and Pars, I actually got to do the voiceover for, which was pretty cool. And
Yeah.
I I respect the grind of trying to get up a roster and get it started. I was with Elite when they kind of first started trying to build their own roster, and same thing that you were saying, like people just didn't respond to DMs. They were asking way too much money because you're a new organization, they don't trust
Yeah.
what's going on. So
Yeah.
now you've established it. If you keep this going for, I mean, I guess through globals and you have a decent performance, all that is out the window now. You've kind of solidified yourself as a solid player. Like that 6 month to a year mark, I feel like is the
Yeah.
most important for an
Yeah. Now
organization.
all of a sudden it is now. Like people are saying you'll end in like 6 months. I'm just like, that's crazy.
Uh,
But yeah.
yeah, it's there's been way too many that have come and gone, and for the players, it's all right as long as they get paid. Like I don't
Yeah,
really
yeah, yeah.
care.
They get their money. They're just like, whatever. It's just another
Yeah,
one of those.
but so what is your plan though to take this beyond just a regular old Twitter
Yeah.
organization or
Yeah.
YouTube video that everyone else does?
Yeah. So, I think with Fortnite orgs, it's a blessing to now. It's like everything happens for a reason. So, I think of it as a blessing in disguise. It's a good thing I didn't get funding when I wanted it because the market for salaries were at a crazy price still.
Oh
Now
yeah.
it's come down a lot. And to be able to not spend to we're really because I know how much other orgs are spending on certain players, and to see that we have players that add way more value and we're spending either the same or less on players that don't add more value that they're spending a lot on, it's kind of a good thing. So so pretty much content is something that and everybody just says content, but I don't really think that people understand. So I love what Become Legends was doing. Sven, he coaches Fatch and he coaches Cold as well. Sven is somebody so what we tried to do was we tried to go to Poland before Copenhagen for boot camp, but Blast, they weren't allowing us to book tickets early. That's something that we were going to do. We're definitely going to do a lot of content. I just moved here in Dallas, and today's like my actual first day of me being able to do work now because I had to travel from Texas to Florida to San Antonio for the Coca-Cola and Six Flags event. I've kind of been busy, but content is something that we're really going to take serious. So that's kind of why I've relocated here so that I can do things with my players. And I kind of plan to. I don't really want to leak too many things, but like get a team house as well. And it's not going to be something to where we're spending crazy amounts, like hundreds of thousands to millions, to where, like you said in the beginning, to where we're burning money like in a furnace or whatever. I've done a strategic way of spending less or getting a sponsor to pay for that at the very least, so that my investor is seeing that we're making money or whatever. But content. So IRL content. I don't really want to like leak too many ideas because I don't know who can be listening to this, but there's lots of content things that we're going to be doing, like I can't say names of specific people that we're about to announce, but I've got a great group of guys who are genuine friends, and and they're pretty big people as well. So the content that we're going to be doing with them is going to be similar to a lot of bigger brands that we see, or bigger like content groups like AMP, Sidemen, and so on, that they do. And I'm going to be doing that with a lot of these Fortnite players, to helping them take their brand to the next level, plus also growing the organization. Like AMP is filled with like Kai Cenat, Duke, all these other guys, but AMP is growing. So that's kind of something I wanted to do in Fortnite, while also having guys compete and place at a very high just high on leaderboards, like Pars and Baca. Took those kids to this event, last weekend with Coca-Cola and Six Flags. Pars, they didn't have to pay for anything. Coca-Cola and all that, they paid for it for us to go. The kid made 12K, and a lot of fans got to meet them and know who they are. And I think things like that are perfect for players who are very high in the leaderboards, but people don't know who they are. I think that's a great thing for their brand. And I've got them posting on TikTok daily. I've got managers and all those things set up for those guys, so that whenever they place high in these cash cups and FNCS and whatnot, people can start to see who they are, see their face, and all these things. So that's that's my, for at least for Fortnite. I'm definitely going to get into other things. That's just after the announcement in Copenhagen and whatnot. We'll definitely branch off into other things. But for Fortnite, I think it can be conquered by us the correct way. Become Legends, I would say, is like, they were the closest to it. But despite what happened, they're no longer where they, were a few years ago. Then you had Extra Gaming, who was really, really close. That's my personal favorite. I loved Extra Gaming. They were killing it, doing fantastic things with Subnation, which was their, their investors and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, we've got a great group of guys that perform well competitive wise, but also content, I believe, adds more value, especially to the scene as well. Fortnite took a huge hit in terms of competitive with people like, Mongrel, Benji Fishy, and then, you never know, somebody like Mr. Savage is going to retire and so on and so forth. So, there's like a newer generation of people that kind of have to replace those role models. So yeah, that's definitely my roadmap for Fortnite, at least, so.
Cool, cool. And I really, so couple of things. One, I think it's so important to give the players support, like have
Yeah.
managers boost them, because
Yeah.
players, it's very easy for a kid. Most of them are young. I mean, you're young, so
Yeah,
most
but
most of the players are very comfortable just competing, not really doing anything
yeah,
else besides that. But if you give them all the tools, like it sounds like you're doing, they can
yeah.
grow so quickly with really just clipping things every once in a
Exactly.
while.
That's all I tell them to do. Just record the first game of a cash cup, you drop 30, 40 kills. Have their TikTok editor make, TikTok, like a video for that, but also YouTube videos to give them all the resources. But continue, sorry.
Yeah, no. There's plenty of things that can be done very easily. To be, let's say, your average competitive player, and to make that step beyond just being a name on a leaderboard, like you said, Baka and Pars, that's huge for those guys to be able to
Yeah,
step out of that comfort zone. They're starting to prove themselves as top players in the region, but
yeah,
what now can you do with that? What more can you do after saying, hey, I'm really good at this video game? Because the people that excelled, like the Mongrels, everyone, you could
yeah.
show people a picture of Mongrel and everyone
They know
knows.
who he is.
Yeah, exactly. So using that platform of being a great competitor to excel yourself beyond that. One, I know it's really freaking hard to make it to that level. So
Yeah,
I used to be all about like, oh, these players have to do this, they have to do that, have to make content. But I've grown more of an understanding of how difficult it is to even just compete at that level. And then content is its own thing. So one, having the team around them is important. And then two, picking the right people that actually want to make that step is huge. So that leads me to my next question. If I'm looking at your roster, the only one that really stands out to me as like content driven is Paper. It seems like everyone
yeah,
else is kind of just, I'll put out things, but like Cold doesn't really show his face much.
yeah.
Scented is a household name, and the rest of them don't really seem to be forward facing as like a face of the organization.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, with Pars and Baca, they both stream now. It's just, it's definitely a little difficult to get them to show their face on camera. Same with Cold. Cold, like he's not home, so he hasn't been able to stream. But he was streaming events. That's something that he doesn't really do, and he was actually streaming Cash Cups finals and things like that, and even FNCS like the week. So I've gotten him to stream that. It's just to get him to show his face. But I mean, that's a conversation I'm going to have with him as soon as he gets home on the 14th. Coming into the next season with content grinding for him. His TikTok is doing great, and getting his YouTube is doing well as well. But there's still room for improvement. Same with Scented. Scented is streaming, but those it's in their contracts or whatever. But I'm always on them. To make sure that they're still streaming with their face and creating great content, so I can make sure all of their platforms are being posted on, and they're also giving, the best of their effort, because that's the reason why I signed them. I didn't just sign them so that they can join the team, have it in their bio, and then that's it. You call it a day. So, definitely I'd say Paper, he, I already knew he was going to exceed past my expectations. The kid streams hundreds of hours a month and he shows his face, and so all he does is go live. But, yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm definitely, doing my best with all of these guys. With Fats, it's very, very difficult, you know it's pretty tricky and challenging. But I mean, with the future people that we're about to sign, they're just natural content creators and they're already creating content, plus they're placing pretty high, so it's it's going to be easier with them. So but yeah, with like I'd say with Pars, Baca, Cold, and Scented, those guys, I'm still like, it's only been about a month, 1 to 2 months, but they're creating the content, but they can do better. So
Yeah. Well, that attitude of constantly striving for better is what's going to help you long term. So
yeah.
hopefully the players get that and they're able to help you out. So you've moved now and seem to be, based on what you've told me, very hands-on with the organization, with the whole process. And there's various different owners that are faces of organizations, and then there's others that kind of just pay the bills and don't necessarily want to be the front of it. But you seem to be the latter of, oh, I would like to be in the announcement videos, I want to be a part of this. And
Yeah.
why did you decide like that is the route you want to be forward facing? And then also, like, how do you plan to kind of portray yourself going forward, I guess?
Well, like I said with FaZe, those guys, since they were the owners of FaZe, it kind of made me easier attached to the brand. Although I'm not like a Scented, I'm not like a Cole, so my following isn't like a FaZe Rain or Adapt at that time. I still think as, being an owner, an active owner, like, with your players and, being in the videos and helping and doing everything, I think it's a very, very good thing for the brand. And then, I mean, I also want to grow my personal brand as well. Like, once this is established in a few months, I plan to create content myself, do vlogs, like, workout vlogs, gym vlog or golf vlogs, all of these things. But I mean, I personally think, just being an active owner, it's very, very good for the business and for the fans and whatnot. So they kind of see who's, doing this or whatever. But yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it's really important. I think some of the biggest orgs we've seen, the ownership has been out there and vocal and
Yeah.
a big piece of who the team is. So
Yeah.
I think that will lead to your success as long as you don't mess it up.
Yeah.
Um, and just making sure that you're a part of it. So good luck. That's a difficult
Yeah.
challenge. You're going to
Yeah.
be.
Apparently it's very difficult. Yeah. I mean, people are saying don't end, but
Yeah, no, I mean more like being the face of the
oh
organization,
yeah, yeah,
because
yeah, yeah.
you will constantly be judged by your actions, and it's more than
Yeah.
just you. It's also now the organization that you are representing with every single thing that you do. So
Yeah.
have have fun with that.
Yeah. Gotta be careful.
Yeah, tread lightly sometimes. Now, I want to go back because I didn't see much about this Coca-Cola Six Flags event, and then all of a sudden it like pops up on social media. Like,
Yeah.
what was that like? Because I honestly don't know much about it, and I'm
Yeah.
pretty active in the space.
So obviously, not a lot of fans heard about it. I would say it was, and it's kind of their fault, but not really. Their main person was Booga, but Booga couldn't really announce it until maybe 4 days before the event, is what I was told, because of like licensing agreements with Epic and whatnot. So that's very challenging. But they didn't market it the best way. I definitely will be helping them with that moving forward. I'm gonna do my best to help them market it. But it was a fantastic event. It was really, really good, and they need to do more of those. Like we need more third party things,
Oh yeah,
and I told them that as well. It was fantastic. Especially for the fans, and like I said, for the players, like Pars and Baca. But I'll get to that after. But for the fans to kind of go to this event, to you pay, but they had like this facility in Six Flags. It was amazing, and there was tons of very great high end PCs. It was amazing. The chairs, the monitors, the mouses, the keyboards, the headsets, all of that stuff. And they also had like this big stage, and on the stage you had like everybody. So you had Somerset, you had Bully, you had Booga, you had Zemi, you had Scented, you had Oliver OG, you had an NBA player named Trey Jones. You might know who he is. He went to Duke.
I do.
Yeah, he was on the Grizzlies, now he's in the San Antonio Spurs. So you had a big stage there. So these kids, they all love Fortnite. They got to meet some of their favorite creators, and they also got to play in a tournament with them. They play like an only up map on Saturday. And then after that tournament, they got to do like a meet and greet with them. So they had shirts, and they had like, controllers or whatever, keyboards for them to sign. They took photos with them. And, after that was the next day was Sunday. They had this tournament. So they got to play in this zero build tournament with their favorite players and creators for money. And it was just a very, very good experience. Things like that, I believe, are what fans, like it's great for fans so that they can meet, their players that they look up to. Because, you have NBA and NFL games, and you can just go to that and pay for it. But with Fortnite, it's all online, so it's very challenging for you to kind of like, meet the people you look up to. But for an event like this, it was amazing. And then to go back to the players now, Pars and Baca, they're not really too popular, but they're very, very good competitors, and they're very high and like they're really good. But for them to go to those events and create content of them being there, and for fans to meet them and know who they are, it's a very, very good thing now to take their brand to the next level so that they can become like a Somerset or a Booga, just in not just only creating content online, or just maybe not even creating content. So it's a very good thing for both parties and both sides. So I it was a very well ran event, and we also got to just go to all the rides for free with security after, all the
Nice.
VIP people. So it was fun. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like it. And I'm with you. The more third party events, the better. I'm completely biased because I get paid to do events like those and commentate, but just for the general health of the competitive space and just Fortnite as a whole, I mean, we had that. There's PAX West. There was just the Reddish tournament.
Gamers 8.
Yeah, there's a lot going on right now, and I was nervous. A month or so ago, it looked like there's going to be this gap between the end of
Me too. I thought the
FNCS.
same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's what, 3 months ish? Well, 2.5, I guess.
Yeah.
where Fortnite really wasn't going to do anything besides cash cups, and we would kind of be in this lull of
Right.
competitive right before this huge event, which, I don't know. I like build up for things, and if we have stuff like this, it would help. So I'm happy to see this. It's good for the space, and I think the more that this happens, the more that people like yourself can be successful because you're getting your players' faces out there and they get to become a real person, not just a character on the screen, which I think is the biggest challenge of Fortnite. Because if you enjoy watching Fortnite, you don't necessarily know who even the players are. Like, it's not
Yeah.
important to you that this is a person behind the screen. And I think one on the broadcast, we've been trying to do that a little bit better, but also like all the organizations, Dignitas, you guys, have been putting out more forward facing player stuff
Yeah.
to make people fans of the players and not necessarily just the game. So yeah, I just little rant right there. Don't know where I was going with
No,
that,
you're good. No,
but
yeah, I like that. Yeah, you're good.
uh,
I like the third party events too, man.
yeah.
It's great for the community.
Hopefully we get like a regular series. I loved when they were doing like DreamHack because it allowed
Yeah.
these like regular
Pop-up
separate.
events or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, well, not only the DreamHack onlines, if they were in person, that'd be even better. But
Yeah.
during COVID, it
Yeah.
was like once a month, you knew there was this event, and it was like duos and solos, and we were playing trios at the time. So it's kind of like this own thing going on, which I
Yeah.
really enjoyed. And I would love for that to come back next year, but I don't get
Same.
to. I don't get to choose that. I don't have hundreds of thousands of dollars to throw at
Dollars.
tournaments.
Yeah.
Um, so this is a little bit of a curveball, but like going back to it, why were you reaching out to like NFL and NBA players as the
Yeah.
person to try and fund your organization? Because that's
Great
kind of
question.
like a,
Different.
yeah. And now we're starting to see a lot of players start to get involved. Like Deshaun Jackson, Preston Smith have kind of done their own organization. Tyreek Hill, like we mentioned earlier, they're starting to get involved. But you said you started this years ago and there
Yeah.
wasn't
Wow.
really anything there. Like, why did you do that?
So, I mean, I would always still see athletes join gaming teams. I'd see Ben Simmons affiliated with FaZe Clan. I'd see Kyler Murray affiliated with FaZe Clan. I would see Stephen Curry with TSM, Shaq with TSM. You would have, or Shaq was with NRG. I mean, there was a lot of bigger athletes that I would still see join gaming teams or create their own. I forgot this one NFL player. He ended up creating his own as well. He retired and created his own. But and then it was also the Boston Scott and the Dignitas one. I'd still see it, and I was just like, and plus you also see athletes just game on the regular. So they would
Right.
just try to create like Tyreek Hill. His was just a friend group. It's not like an actual gaming team where they just like it's like an actual friend group type of thing. So I'd still see athletes do that and just game and stream on Twitch, and I'm just like, dude. Invest into an esports org that's popular. So while you're also hot in the league, you can make more money rather than whenever you retire and you're no longer like, that guy, you still have, some money, but it would just be a good thing to do while you're in your career. So I just would always see athletes, joining gaming teams. So I was just like, man, every day I was just grinding, DMing athletes on Instagram like all night for like hours, and I would email them, their agents. So that's kind of why I would, contact the athletes. I think I contacted well at that time frame. I had like a list in front of me of like active players and even retired ones too, and I just every single one from each sport, you name it.
Okay. So who's your favorite team for both the NFL and NBA?
Dude, that's such a tough question, bro. Because I mean, my favorite player for basketball is definitely Kevin Durant. Like, I like basketball a lot more than football because
Okay.
I just growing up, that's all I would do, just eat, sleep, basketball. But I really don't know. I for the NBA, bro. I wish I could answer that. It's tough. I mean, I hope the Suns do well next season, but they're gonna probably get smoked by the Nuggets. Just being realistic with you, Jokic is like in his prime still, so and Kevin Durant realistically, like he's him, but like he's not him enough to like stop Jokic. Same with Devin Booker. So I don't know, man. And for the NFL, I mean, I can't. I'm not a big NFL fan. I don't really like football that much. Sorry to
Oh.
say. I know. I know. It was just basketball for me. But my favorite team is the one that's on with that the NFL player is on. But I can't say that team. But I mean, yeah. So there's my answer for that. I wish I could
It's
have
not
like
an
much more.
answer.
Yeah, it's not an answer. I wish I could have more of an answer. But yeah.
All right. Well, Yeah, that happened. Um, yeah, okay. You can't give
So
me
yeah,
anything, like not even a team.
I mean, bro, I really like the Patriots because I like Tom Brady. You know, I like
Oh,
winners. I like winners. But then he went to Tampa Bay because I'm
boo.
from Florida as well, so that's kind of nice. But bro, I mean, dude, I like the Eagles a lot. You know, there was somebody that went to a school that was near me. He got drafted. He was like one of the first few picks in the NFL draft. You probably know his name. I forgot his name. I don't know how,
Jalen
but he went.
Carter.
Yeah, Jalen Carter. Like a lot of my IROs know who he is, and my little brother goes to the same high school as him. So I like the Eagles as well because I also like their quarterback. I like his mentality and
Okay.
how he thinks. So you know, the Eagles I would say is a good one, but I also like Patrick Mahomes a lot. So you know, I can't really like say all these teams. You know, it just doesn't make sense. But I'd say the Eagles, I guess.
Okay. Fan of great quarterback play. It sounds like Tom
Yeah.
Brady, Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes. So
I just like the way how they think. You know, they just have a really good mindset.
yeah, I'm with you. I'm a Jets fan. If you couldn't tell,
Oh, I
uh,
could tell.
they finally got a good quarterback. So I'm super excited for this season, and it kicks off tonight. Actually, you guys at home listening, it'll be tomorrow or well yesterday, but today is
Yeah.
the first day of the NFL season. I couldn't be more excited. So for you, is this what you want as far as the organization to stay with like the one player, or is this now something where you're going to look to branch out after Copenhagen once you announce everything later down the line? Are you trying to do other esports, get involved in other esports, get other players, NFL, NBA, MLB, whatever it may be, involved? Like, what do you foresee the future looking like for you guys over the next couple of years?
Yeah, so you know, once I kind of do this Fortnite thing, we'll still be very active in Fortnite. We just won't be like an org that kind of picks up too many players. So we'll still have a decent amount of players because like we're gonna pick up some pretty big names, but brands they like bigger names. You know, like we were talking about earlier, like how you asked me like the why, the Fatch, and even like somebody like Paper or Pars and Baca. Those names don't necessarily excite brands too much. So and Scented is probably the only very big name. So I've got to kind of like add a few more Scented, some household names because brands like that and they'll pay for that. But once we kind of conquer Fortnite and we continuously do a lot of IRL content, we kind of separate ourselves from other orgs and kind of like I guess would say make history. Definitely gonna get into other games. You know, I'd love to get into like the COD League. I'd love to get into Rocket League. I would love to get into Valorant, Apex. You know, Apex, the ALGS thing. The that tournament. I'm not too sure how familiar you are with Apex, but I was trying to get a team going for that. But was just kind of a little too busy with what we're doing for Fortnite. But for sure, we're definitely going to branch off into other things so that we can take Agent to another level because Fortnite is a great game to get popular in for a brand. But would say for respect for an esports org, you have to get into other things because they don't take Fortnite seriously, and even Fortnite doesn't take competitive seriously itself. So it's just like you'll see us branching off. And then to answer your question, as far as it goes for adding more athletes, I think that it'll kill the brand because if you look at orgs like FaZe, if you add too many popular people, whether it's rappers or whatever, I will do collaborations with them because I've made a good amount of connections when I was trying to get funding. I have all these guys, their numbers and whatnot. So I'll do collaborations with these guys and film content with them. But as far as it goes for adding them to the brand as like a co-owner or things like that, I wouldn't do that because I don't necessarily unless shit hits the fan and I need funding from them, then maybe. But that's not going to happen. I don't believe that's going to happen as well. God forbid. But I won't. I'll just collaborate with them. Same thing with rappers. But then I do think at a point in time, whenever it comes to expanding out into different games, games like Valorant or whatever, players are asking for a lot of money. It's a lot of money, like the franchising side of things. So I will most likely get maybe like a private equity group to invest into the business, or unless like I said, like we have like a pretty big sponsor coming. Unless the big sponsors, the like Fortune 100 companies want to kind of like pay for the salaries and things like that, then that's maybe what we'll do. But I'll for sure get more funding, like like how Extra Gaming had Sub Nation, that was their investor, and they were constantly promoting them. So, yeah, so
Yeah, I think that makes a ton of sense, though. You don't want to dilute the brand by having it be kind of just this mess of people, whereas
yeah,
it seems like the most successful organizations have kind of focused on, hey, here's our guy, this is who we are, and then branch off similar to that. Um, and then as far as like working with investments, getting into other games, how what would you expect your timeline to be? Is this something you're expecting to do in the next year, or is it, let's establish Fortnite for this year and next year? Like,
Yeah.
where do you see that happening?
It's kind of like both. So how you just said, let's establish Fortnite, and then let's see. So like that's definitely the main focus because it's time consuming, man. But once this is very established, within the next few months, like especially after Copenhagen, I'm pretty sure there might be a DreamHack in December, but that's not confirmed, so I don't know. But once that has happened, it's gonna be a very successful, with all the announcements that we have coming. So with the amount of money that we'll get from sponsors and whatnot, I'll for sure want to get involved in another game. It's just like other games aren't like Fortnite to where they're like, like ALGS, like I don't know how to explain it to you, but like Fortnite, like, their thing is just like I know how their tournaments are structured basically, and it's at the end
Yeah.
of the year when the major thing is happening. I gotta figure out like like for Valorant, for Rocket League, like how their tournament structures are and when is the best time to kind of get involved, if that makes sense. To where it just makes sense, but like, before it's a very big tournament or whatever, I kind of have to just become more knowledgeable in that. But I would still say at least sometime next year we would definitely get involved in another esport, if not around the end of this year, if it makes sense to. But yeah, it should be very, very soon, but
Okay.
don't want to necessarily rush though. But yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, you're just kind of not just starting
Yeah,
off because you've
yeah,
been
but we
doing this
really
now for a
are.
while, but you're essentially starting from zero again this
Yeah,
summer. So
yeah,
there's a lot of work still to be done. And most games, I will let you know, kind of have a similar like seasonal system to
yeah,
Fortnite where like event build at the end of the year, October, November timeframe is like the main thing. So most of them work like that.
good, yeah,
Which is like a good and a bad thing because if you're an organization, it's like all this happens at once, so you don't really get to spread that like interest out throughout the year as much. But it also is a great thing if everyone's popping off, you're having a ton of success, which
yeah.
leads me to my next question. Like, what would you consider success within your organization? Like, when or what would you consider like a goal for agent? Like, what do you want to build, and when would you consider it successful?
Oh, that's actually a tricky question. When I would say successful, I mean, for me, I would want to say like I just want to build a brand, that fans can kind of like, actually it's like a consistent brand so where we don't end. We have like a lot of these huge creators and competitors in different games. So where you see us doing collaborations with people that are outside of the industry or even in the industry. So like I was saying, like, with rappers and other athletes, I'd love to do cross collaborations and things like that because not a lot of orgs do that. And if they do it, they do it the wrong way to where they just make every single person join to where it's just like, geez, they're getting this TikToker, they're getting this athlete, this MMA fighter or whatever. So, that's kind of what I'm trying to build, building kind of like building this thing in each game to where we have like a lot of fans who look up to our creators and we build something that's where like really established, if that makes sense, to where we're kind of killing in content. I think content is the most important thing, so where we partner with these brands and like I said, we're taking our players to NFL games and we're doing like a lot of different things. And I mean, I don't really know if I would call that successful though. Like I really don't know when I would call it successful. Maybe whenever we be at least we're breaking even, becoming profitable, which the way I've structured it, it's very, very likely, so that's when I guess would say it's actually a successful thing, when my investor is making some return on his money, or at least like we're just not, because we're not burning a lot of money right now, if I'm being honest with you, compared to a lot of organizations, which is a blessing from what I've been able to find out. But if we keep at the rate we're going, I guess success is in the near future, for the business, so yeah,
Yeah,
hopefully I answered that the right way.
yeah, that makes sense. I mean, just being a sustainable business is kind of
Yeah,
what.
that's I guess the success.
Yeah, just making it. Most businesses fail in the first
Yeah,
3 years, so being able to
yeah,
turn that profit and get it back around would be quite nice for you guys. So that is going to take some time and effort.
yeah.
And you are kind of smart in starting in Fortnite. Wave out in Europe, they did that, then branched off to Valorant, had a ton of success, and have still had some solid success in both games now, which people used to say that the salaries in Fortnite were absurd. And like I know what some of the players were getting, but still compared to some of the other leagues, like
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
not that much. Even if you're paying someone 10K a month, like that's $120,000 a year. That's pretty standard for a lot of
Yeah.
like the other major esports out there. and Fortnite salaries are nowhere near that at 10K
Not
a month.
anymore.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, unless you're clicks, that's probably
Yeah.
one of the few that's pulling anywhere upwards of several $1,000s. But
Yeah.
um, yeah, it's not a bad time to get involved, especially
Yeah.
with
Everybody says it's bad. I think it's a blessing, bro, because it's very good for popularity. The market is at an all-time low. So what that means is, for example, like, if you look at stocks and whatnot when they crash, basically player salaries it crashes, teams end. TNA ended. No, like, no shade or anything like that. But it's just like, people are just like, oh shit, there's not many orgs. I kind of want to get signed and be a part of something, but I can't say, oh, I want 5K and I don't stream or show my face and at 0%, So it's just kind of like, I think it's a great thing for orgs, but they have to know how to do it. So
yeah, it makes a ton of sense to be able to. I mean, a reasonable team salary could be under $10,000 and actually have a lot of content be put out
yeah.
with that. And then in wrapping up here, like going to Copenhagen, you have how many play? Is your whole roster going to
It's
Copenhagen?
yeah, 6 out of 6, yeah.
Okay. Well, first of all, congratulations to you and the players
Thank
for
you.
that. Second, what are your expectations? Like, where do you think the players will finish? What do you hope to see, and what do you think is realistic?
I'll only say realistic things. I'm not just gonna say, oh, this person's for sure going to win. I mean, I'd see Cold and Acorn. If the meta for the season is their meta, then I see them performing really, really well. Like, last season wasn't a meta that they were just kind of like dominating. That was more of like a rise in the Yams type of meta, especially with the drop spot that they got. But before that, the season before that, or two before that, I should say, whenever they won that FNCS, they won that FNCS by a lot. So, it depends on how this meta is, that'll be easier to kind of answer that question. For somebody like Fatch and his duo Pamstu, they have to qual like 2 times,
Yeah,
but let's say they're uncontested. If they're uncontested, they'll qual with ease, in my opinion. They're a very good duo. They just need to be uncontested. Even when they were contested in FNCS, they still got like third place in one of their games, which is a really good thing, for people who don't know. Like, if you're contested, it's just shambles for you. But for them to be contested and still place really, really high and get a lot of points compared to whenever they died on spawn and the team would die to a team near them, then that would just clean them up. They're really good. And then Pars and Baka, they're a sleeper. They're gonna do so well. I'm not really worried about that. They did great at Gamers 8. They did great in every single FNCS. This year for them is probably the best year that they've ever had.
one hundred
They've just
percent.
been, yeah, they're just killing it. Hopefully Paper and Muzz do very well. Muzz is a nervous type of player, just to be honest. He gets nervous. But hopefully him and Paper do very, very well. And then, I mean, we're probably going to well, not probably, gonna add like maybe 3 more players, and 2 out of those 3 have qualified. So I mean, you don't really want to say names, but I mean, dude, do I say this?
Don't say anything you don't want to say or will regret.
Yeah, I know, right? I don't know, cause okay, I won't say it. I won't say it. I'll just have self control. I mean, 2 other players there. I honestly don't know how they'll do. Their play style is a little bit different. They're just like it's different. So I don't know how those 2 will do. But as far as it goes for everybody else, I think they'll do very, very well. And at least they qualified and they made it and they got to experience this despite how they performed. It's a great experience that many people can't say that they've had. But yeah, that's my answer. So
Okay, yeah. I mean, for all the player, are you going? Are you gonna go to Copenhagen?
100%, yeah.
Nice. It's an awesome place. I really enjoy the city, and the people are very kind. So I think you all will enjoy it. Some of the
Yeah.
players have been out there before for
Yeah,
like media
last year.
days and different things, but
Oh yeah, last year was I did not mean to say last year, but yeah, yeah, no, you're right, you're right.
yeah, I think Fatch. Yeah, he
Yeah,
just
he was
had
just
a
there.
piece recently with Fortnite. So it's awesome. I highly recommend anybody listening. If you've never been, you have the means to go. Definitely go if you're a fan of Fortnite. If not, I'd go anyway. It's just a cool place to visit.
It
Um,
is.
and do you like what do you want to get out of that as far as like content? Because you've talked a lot of content. Do you plan on doing stuff when you
Yeah.
get there? Like, what are the plans?
Yeah, we tried our best to do a boot camp before that, like BL did. It was gonna be so amazing whenever we were gonna do that. But we'll still do content there, a lot of like IRL stuff. with the guys, like, go out to eat, just showing them, preparing, hopefully, because I haven't been there, but I know 50, he said in the last one, the access that you kind of get, even being a plus one or whatever, isn't that good.
Yeah.
Hopefully the access is good enough for an organization to, create content around their players for the event. So we're for sure going to be filming and doing a lot of vlogs and things like that for the guys. So, from whenever we leave Dallas to go to Denmark, we'll be vlogging and filming that. So yeah, it should be pretty fun and you know, entertaining for the fans, I'd hope so.
Yeah, I definitely think so. If you can get some of the guys out of their shells, they're a lot of fun. Paper's not one you need to open up.
Yeah,
He's gonna be who he is.
yeah,
But the rest of the guys definitely should have a good time and enjoy it. Especially like if someone told you get a free all expense paid trip to a brand new city and you get to go meet your peers, like that alone is
yeah.
cool. And then the
Great
fact that you get to compete for
collaborations.
$4 million is
Yeah,
just icing on the cake after everything that goes on. So I think a lot of the players honestly have started to realize how awesome these opportunities are. In the
yeah,
beginning, a couple of years ago, it seemed like people took these things for granted. And now, because we've been starved for LAN events, all the players love coming together and doing things. So it should be a ton of fun. And hopefully, you guys have some success out there. Um,
yeah.
yeah, I like a lot of the players on the roster. I think Cold especially is like an
Hmm.
incredible player at the game
Yeah,
and a
he's number
lot of
one.
fun. Yeah,
Yeah,
he's so much fun to watch,
yeah,
man.
he's easily the best in my opinion, and that's a fact. That's something I would say. Yeah, he's number one for sure.
Oh, I don't know. His duo is pretty good, but
I like Cold.
yeah, yeah,
I like
yeah.
Cold.
I feel that. All right. Well, that's all I have for you, man. I really appreciate it. And thank you for sharing what you could. Maybe we'll have to get you back on here
Yeah, yeah.
after you
Second one for
announce
sure.
everything in a few months. So excited to see how this happens. As a fan of the NFL, I always love seeing players get involved in the space. Just bias personally, it's really cool for me. It gives me hope that one day I will get to work like an NFL Fortnite event. So we'll see how that goes. And
Yeah.
uh, let everybody know where to find you, where to find Agent, all that stuff.
Yeah, so for agents, social media accounts, Agent GGS on Twitter, agent.ggs on Instagram, pretty large following there as well. And then just Agent Gaming on YouTube. For my personal self, just Agent Rad, the number 7 on Twitter, and then Instagram, Snapchat, all those things where I, kind of post a lot of, exclusive things that I leak without, but I shouldn't be doing that, but it's just agent.conrad. So yeah, I mean, that's where you guys can find myself and my business or my brand. And yeah, thank you for having me as well. It was a pleasure. So
Yeah, of course, man. Thank you for joining. And thank you, everyone listening at home. If you are still listening, please give us a rating on whatever platform you're listening on. It's very helpful to the podcast to grow. Thank you all for listening. If you have any complaints, just DM me on Twitter at somebody's gun. I may or may not listen, but we'll see you next time. Peace.